I was very much rootless. I don't come from the United States. I don't have family in the United States. I don't have aunts and uncles that could help me spread the word. So I was a person with no roots, and I had to make roots for myself. And the only way that I could make roots for myself in roofing was to simply create something completely different.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Nailed It Show. Today's guest may have inspired me to start a roofing company. She's that smart, she's that driven, she's that passionate about her company and about the roofing industry and about leaving a legacy. And so I'm super excited to share this interview with Greta Bajrami, CEO of Golden Group Roofing up in Massachusetts. She has built the American dream, coming from a third world country with no roofing experience, has started her roofing company from scratch. And I have a feeling that she's just getting started. She's really providing some mentorship, some coaching within the roofing industry and outside the roofing industry. She's really focused on building a legacy. They have, which is appealing to me, one of the coolest brands that I've seen in the roofing industry that has really helped them differentiate and really propelled them to their early success so far. She talks about things like how she has kind of graduated from being an operator in the business to being an owner and entrepreneur, to investing in her business, to investing in leaders to replace her at different roles in the company so that they can scale and she can grow beyond just herself. She talks about building a team of like-minded people who come out of college and want to join her team, aspire to join her company so they can build a big future. She talks about giving back to the industry, giving back to her local community, and just a really, really inspiring person, someone that I look forward to getting to know even more over the next coming months. So sit back, relax, you're gonna learn something, pay attention. Greta Bajrami of Golden Group Roofing in Massachusetts.
Hey everyone, here on the Nailed It podcast with my special guest, Greta Bajrami, CEO of Golden Group Roofing in Massachusetts. Greta, I feel like since I've watched several of your videos in preparation for this interview, I feel like I already know you. Is that a vibe, or is that a response that you get from prospective clients and people in your market?
Yes, it is. And that's exactly the intent behind it, is getting to know me as a person and getting to know the culture of the company as a whole before we even do business together.
That's awesome. I definitely want to dive into how that has helped you grow your brand and build your team and build your family at Golden Group Roofing. But first, your backstory is fascinating. I know we don't have time to share every tidbit, but can you give the viewers an overview of the Greta Bajrami story and how you came to be where you're sitting today?
Oh, yeah, it's a great story. I'll make it quick. I grew up in Tirana, Albania, in Europe. And at the age of 10, I migrated to the United States with my family. And I went through the American dream of going through school here, going to college here, and really embracing the Americana culture. And it wasn't until I was a senior in college in entrepreneurship course that I was really able to dive and realize that I had a lot of traits that really aligned with the entrepreneurship world. And at that time in school, I was obsessed with owning a coffee shop that was going to be named Tiramisu Cafe. Yes, you were going to be able to eat tiramisu there and coffee. And I worked on it for a whole year, and my professor, gave me an A on it. And long story short, nothing came of it because I didn't own Tiramisu Cafe. But that summer, I got a job in construction because not many people were hiring recent grads. This is post-recession. And I answered this Craigslist.org ad because Craigslist was huge during that time, and it was free. You didn't have to create a profile. So I went on there and I answered this ad that said $300 for a roofing foreman. And I was like, well, how hard can this be? I didn't even know that you needed to replace roofs at that time. I had no idea that was a thing. So I showed up to the office. I was dressed, fairly presentable, like sort of what they taught you in college. And I walked in, and I think the boss was sort of shocked, and I don't think he was expecting that a girl was going to come in dressed to the nines, in a suit, and
portfolio in hand.
He goes, can you pass a background check? I said, yes. He said, can you pass a drug test? I said, yes. I didn't know what this was happening. He's like, okay, well, you're hired. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like, that's all the requirements. He never asked if I knew anything about roofing. Like, I did it. And the next day I showed up on the job site and they asked me for ice and water. And I didn't know that roofers refer to leak barriers, ice and water. I had read the pro manual guide that GAF had made. I had studied it and like tried to digest it in like 48 hours. And it said nothing about ice and water in any of there. It just said leak barrier, right? So I was like, I got hired in May. It was hot. So I was looking for ice and water. And that's like when the guys, I think, were calling me names under their breath saying like, what has this boss done with her? But every day I would learn something new from the guys. Every day I would sit on the ridge of the roof and pass them shingles. Every day I would stay with the cleanup crew until the job was done because I understood very early on that that's how I was going to get paid. I understood there was some other, back things that were sort of hidden. And I made a name for myself on the crew. I gained their respect. I gained my position. And for 3 years, I was out with my crew every day, ensuring that residential or commercial projects were being completed for my boss.
That is hilarious. The ice and water. That must have been quite a scene. So you were basically like a project manager, foreman.
Exactly. I was a project manager, foreman, thrown into the job with no training and just told to watch and make sure no OSHA violations, watch and make sure nobody dies, watch and make sure that the project goes well and make sure the homeowner is happy. Like that was my only job. And I was like, okay, I could do that. Like I can make sure the homeowner is happy. I could talk to her all day or him.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good job. I could totally resonate. My first job was when I was 14 in my dad's, my family business's shipyard in Brooklyn, New York. So I get a ride in the back of a pickup truck up to Brooklyn, New York. Basically, they give me a 5-gallon bucket of paint and a big roller. And my task is to paint this barge. And that was like my first thing to do. And there's a bunch of hardened, like blue collar shipyard guys from all over the place, all over the world. And here comes like the boss's son, clean clothes and everything like that. I wasn't dressed up, but my clothes weren't dirty yet. And my hands didn't have calluses, and it's definitely you have to build that trust and earn that respect from the crew. There's definitely like, who is this new person? Like, they're going to last like 2 days? They're going to be out of here. So I definitely resonate with that blue collar work ethic and earning that respect and working your way up there.
Exactly, you're right, and that's exactly what I did for 3 years.
For 3 years. Okay. So what did you see in that job that kind of opened your eyes to, hey, there might be an opportunity here to go out and start my own thing?
Well, yeah. So I was very much a college student at heart, where I wanted to research everything. I wanted to create graphs, charts. I wanted to create projections. And I saw that none of them was being implemented as much in construction as it was in other industries. And I'm not saying that that maybe not be true for some people listening, and that's great for you. But the majority of people in this industry do run it very paper and pen, client to client, job to job. There's no really 5-year strategy plans. There's no exit plans. There's no marketing plans, business plans, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really where I was sitting one day at the job site and I said, I still have my heart to make Tiramisu Cafe, but what if I took Tiramisu Cafe and I made it Golden Group Roofing? And the idea sounded crazy at the time, but I said, at the end of the day, it's a business. At the end of the day, it's a client and a service and a product. And I really enjoy doing this now. Like, I really enjoy showing up at the job site with the guys. I really enjoy walking the property with the homeowner. I enjoy the little heart attacks that we get during the day when product runs short or we have to something wrong got delivered. I had become a pro at it and dealing with it and overcoming it. And I said, how can I take this and turn it into a business? Because it was a great business model. The average coffee shop may never make more than $500 to $1 million in revenue. Because, if you work that number backwards, it's a lot of coffee to sell in one day. And some coffee shops never get to that $1 million price tag. But roofers do, and they surpass it, and they surpass it way into the millions. So why not take this proven business industry and just create a process that could allow for growth and something different, so I can make a place in my business? Because I was very much rootless. I don't come from the United States. I don't have family in the United States. I don't have aunts and uncles that could help me spread the word. So I was a person with no roots, and I had to make roots for myself. And the only way that I could make roots for myself in roofing was to simply create something completely different. And the only thing proprietary was the way that I was going to deliver it, because obviously roofing can only really be installed one way. And the only aspect that I could change was that process and that deliverable.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. Yeah. We talk about that all the time with the roofing companies that we work with. There's, you're offering the same GAF and CertainTeed products that the guy down the street is, and probably the same warranties and the financing options and everything like that. But it's the way that you guys work with your clients. It's the way that you provide that service, communicate with them, educate them about that process, and make them feel great about that investment. I'm sure that really differentiates a company like yours, right?
Right. Exactly.
Cool. And you mentioned those little heart attacks in there that business owners go through inevitably. I'm guessing that your background, your experiences of facing adversity, kind of hardened you and made you prepared you for those heart attacks and prepared you to kind of overcome those challenges.
Yeah, in life you can have a plan, and then a plan is just no good. And I'm a big believer that when I face a challenge in business, whether it's something at the job site, something in marketing, I just face it with, okay, like, don't just give me the problems, give me a solution. So every person in my team, if they're just listing problems, I'll just tell them to stop. Like, if you're going to just list problems, then you need to think, because I think like in every problem, there's always a solution, and you just need to think a little harder. You need to take a time out and see how you can make it. When you have a very difficult project you're working on, there could be a million problems, but I guarantee there's one solution to make everybody happy. You just gotta, sometimes that might mean lowering something or yielding to something that you might not entirely agree with, but that's what the outcome has to be. Then that's what the outcome has to be. And I learned that very early on in construction. It's one way to gain momentum is to really learn when you have to yield to the client, to the general contractor, to the architect, to whoever has to be, because it's very much a partnership, and the end result is not profit. The end result is growth, right? So I think sometimes a lot of owners are so caught up in numbers, they lose sight of that. For me, I've never run Golden Group on numbers, and numbers have always followed. I've always run Golden Group on the intentions of growth and how I can make a client happy, or how I can make a partner happy. And I'll do whatever it takes to make that person happy. And if it means giving them their money back, then so be it. Because again, the outcome on every project is growth, and growth can only come if that person's happy and allows you to extend into their network. I put it metaphorically for my team. I call it a tree with branches. If that branch cuts off, you just lost the possibility for, all those sprouts. You lost it completely. That person just detached themselves from you entirely. And that's not something we're ever going to, in 10 years of business, I've never had to cut off a branch. I've never had to say, no, I don't want to do it. I'm sure maybe sometimes I might have to. I'm not sure. I can't speak for the future, but I know that in my heart, 99% of the time I enter every process trying to find at least one possible solution.
Okay, awesome. So you're prioritizing growth, which I'm reading between the lines is making your clients happy and giving them the solution that's a win-win. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's always about the client, and it's always about their network of friends and family and their ability to become your cheerleader, right? Like so, I mean, if you start pissing off a few of them or not really catering to them, then I'm always customer service based. Like, I believe in that hospitality trade. I always have, and that's the reason why I wanted to open a coffee shop. I believe in nurturing every client. I believe in I grew up in a family that was part of the restaurant world. So we made sure the customer was always happy. We walked out with a dessert, to say thank you. We walked around to every single table, making sure multiple times that they were happy. And we always parted as friends, and we always remembered what they liked, what they didn't like, and tried to make every experience every time better than the one before.
Yeah, exceed expectations for sure. You mentioned in one of your videos on YouTube, which I love your YouTube channel, by the way. We'll link to that below this video. Your mother and her leadership growing up. Obviously, you said you went to took an entrepreneurial class in college, and you learned some of the nuts and bolts. But some of that leadership and that problem solving must have come earlier on. Was it from your mother, or from your upbringing?
Yeah, it was. I'm an only child. I grew up with a mom who's a doctor, from a third world country, essentially. So a lot of doctors in third world country, there's a lot of passion there. They're not doing it for the big fancy paychecks. They're doing it for the passion, because the paycheck is non-existent. So I grew up watching her always save lives, and I grew up always her like staying on surgery and multiple hours, days sometimes, to make sure that they had come up with every solution possible to save that person. And when you're working ER surgery, you get trauma, you get people that come from broken limbs, cut off limbs. So you're doing everything possible to save that person and to save their arm, because you understand how important that arm is to their life, right? So growing up and watching my mom always fight for everybody, it made me realize that there's a lot of power in want, and there's a lot of power in that voice of just wanting to do better for yourself or for somebody else. And the moment you vocalize it, you start to believe it and see it. And growing up with somebody like that always wanted people to thrive, always wanted people to walk out healthy and happy, that was so powerful to me, because that's the kind of energy I grew up around, that energy that it was always going to be okay. And as long as we wanted more, as long as we wanted the best out of every outcome, it would follow. And that's the same way with Golden Group. Like, I want my clients to be happy. I want Golden Group to grow. I want my team to be successful. And because I vocalize that and I'm very strong about it, that energy is felt around this building all the time.
Yeah, it is so cool to see that that what Golden Group is today had kind of its seeds in your childhood, and your mother is doing surgery. She's not thinking about her paycheck or how much profit she's going to make from that surgery. Of course, she's got that one objective in mind, which is to provide the best solution for her patient, and you embody that and providing that best solution for your clients. Really cool to see how that ties together. I'm reading this book called The Infinite Game right now. Have you ever heard of it?
No, but I should.
Yeah, it's really cool. Simon Sinek, the author who wrote Start With Why, which a lot of people are familiar with. The Infinite Game, it's really about what you're talking about, which is having a bigger focus than just making money. So it's, having that long-term vision versus that short-term focus of maximizing profit from every product or service or customer, and really understanding that it's bigger than any one customer. You're on a mission to build a unique business and provide for not only yourself and your team, but your clients and your community and any industry as a whole. So
absolutely.
It sounds, that would be a good book recommendation, although you're already living it, so you might not get too much out of it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's what it's all about. It's just that legacy aspect of it. You have to ask yourself what you want to leave behind, because I'm very big on that and I'm very vocal about that. Just like, we're all business owners, we're all about profits, but there has to be something more that wakes you up every morning. There has to be that legacy factor, and what you want to leave behind, what you want to be remembered for, and what you want to be proud of looking back at it one day. And I know it sounds very Hallmark or movie-like, but even with things that are happening in our society today, it's showing that it's very much for what are you going to be remembered for? Because if you're going to be remembered for just making all these millions of dollars, maybe it won't be that relevant, in 10, 15 years from now. Who knows? Like, people will probably make so much more and they'll be doing so great. So what is that legacy factor in your business? And we're all important. And even if it's just to make your brand recognizable in your community, that's important too. But you have to really find out what's important to you, and legacy is always important to me, and that's what the driving force of Golden Group is. It's not I become obsessed with that growth, but it's because of that legacy factor, because I want to be remembered as this girl who was 21 years old, who had this crazy idea to open a roofing company, but she did it, and look what she did, because that's going to inspire so many other people, and most importantly, it's going to inspire my children, which is obviously something that I work really hard to. I want to always be their mentor, and I always want to be somebody that they look up to every day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're recording this in late 2020, and certainly I think 2020 has woken many people up to, what's really important, what really matters, and giving people perspective over things. So sounds like you figured that out way before 2020.
Yes.
But those are certainly important things. And I think, like, for me personally, just starting out in business like 8 years ago, it was like, hey, how can I make enough money to pay the bills and find some clients and, make some money and hopefully hire someone. And as you as I kind of mature in business, I realize it's not just about that, right? You get beyond the survival and get into like thrive mentality, where you really want to build something that's memorable, leave a legacy, teach your kids the right things, hire like-minded people on your team that are, going to contribute to that journey, and for whom you can build an amazing future as well. So I touched on your content at the beginning. And we'll link to all of it below: YouTube, Instagram. Looks like you're channeling another immigrant, Gary V, and documenting some of your journey, which is really cool. So what was the kind of reason behind that? Why did you get started with creating your content and documenting your journey? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Great question. So when I entered roofing, I knew nothing. I remember how I said I didn't have anybody. I didn't have anybody that could spread my word around. And I knew the only way I was going to enter the market was through search. I was going to be able to really gain an audience through the web. So Golden Group has really always been a search-based business. And honestly, one of the reasons that we didn't get impacted by COVID as much is because we never really relied on trade shows. We didn't really rely on canvassing. We didn't really rely on publications and magazines and billboards. I mean, we were always a search company. And I realized very early on that was going to be the key indicator, because I had to be there on the search engines and I had to prove my case every single time for somebody to click and call me, because I wasn't going to be in their referrals, and I wasn't going to have somebody pushing me, at least not in the beginning. Of course, now we have referrals, and of course now people mention our names in community groups, but at the very beginning and the basis of this company is that it's 90% search run. So, and I'm always finding unique ways to position myself. I mean, if you look at our website, we have a full-time developer, and maybe your budget doesn't allow for a full-time developer, but if you can afford a full-time developer on your payroll, it's going to make your life so easy, because you're going to be able to push out pages and content as you see fit, right? Like if you want to push out a page for roofing because something's happening in roofing, you can do that if you have somebody on your payroll. And we're always pushing at least 3 new pages every month. Now, you don't see those because those are not targeted to normally be seen if you're landing on the website, but they're seen in search, right? So if somebody's searching for that particular question, they're going to land on that particular page. And that's always been a very strategy that we've always had, is create content, create a really good content, right, with really good information. We have a writer that works with me to produce that content, to push it out. So we educate, because our biggest thing is we're going to educate you so you can make the best decision for your home. I mean, that is our slogan in our company. It's not to educate you to buy with us. It's to educate you to make the best decision in your home. And if we're not that decision, that's okay. But we're going to do everything to consult you and educate you on that decision. And whether that's teaching you about insurance, whether that's teaching you about roofing, whether that's teaching you about building permits, whatever you want to learn, we're going to teach it to you. So with that, paired with social media, which is the next big piece, which is the Instagram, the Facebook, and the YouTube, when you pair those two together, now you're hitting that client in every aspect of their lifestyle, because they live on the Google search engine, but then they also browse on their social media platforms. And on social media, we couldn't just push out buy a roof now, because nobody's going to buy a roof on social media just because they see our ad, right? We couldn't push out we couldn't push out on social media like call 508, and get 5% off, because chances are no one's going to do that either. So the only thing we can push on social media is the layers that make up Golden Group. And yes, maybe the competitor can use that against us. I can see where other roofers might have reservations if they open up the doors to their company. But at the same time, that's okay, because that's not your ideal client anyway. Your ideal client is somebody who understands that you're a real person. You can make jokes, and just like we have on the YouTube channel, like we look silly, we look bad, but that's the intent of it, is to show that we're real people. Like we drive and we laugh, we make fun of one another. We drink too much coffee. I get scared at carnival rides. Like, okay, but I'm a real person, and this is what I do. And that's the intent of social media, because the intent of social media is to show the layers and the identities of the people behind the brand. So it's more warm, it's more connected. And we've seen this approach in big billion-dollar companies. So why not roofers? Why shouldn't they do it either? And I knew 2 years ago that people didn't really agree with me, but I decided to move forward with it anyway. And my strategic plan has been YouTube, podcasts, social media, and really opening up the doors to the company and letting people in. 2 years ago, my team, even my internal team, didn't agree with this approach. But I think this approach is necessary, especially for where the world is headed. The more and more the search engines become our vital source of society, the more and more you're going to have to be open on those platforms and be open about yourself, not be open about call 1-800 or buy a roof now or 5% off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a race to the bottom if you're just like going straight in for the sale using those tactics. One of the less like that. Thanks so much for sharing. You speak my language. I mean, it's awesome. I should have you speak to our clients to kind of get them to hear it from someone besides me on why they should be doing this stuff. One of the really cool things that I took from that is the fact that you were able to break into essentially like an old guy industry, especially in the Northeast, in Massachusetts. You've got these companies that have been around 20 years, 40 years, 70 years, probably not online, just kind of relying on their network and word of mouth, which is fine until they want to transition to the younger generation. But you were able to break in as a female, as an immigrant, as someone with very little roofing experience, and build that brand and generate demand in an old boys industry, so to speak. And that's awesome, because we have clients all over the country, and big cities like Dallas and Denver and LA, and they're like, I'm just a small guy. How am I going to stand out? Like, well, you're not going to have the advertising budget to go out there and dominate Dallas Fort Worth, but you can carve out your little area in your county or your town, and you can tell your story, and your story is the way that's going to differentiate you. So there is Absolutely. A way. Don't get intimidated. Regardless of how big of an advertising budget you have, you're not gonna reach everyone in your market with like a generic message or that buy now or $1,000 off a new roof. People connect with people, and it's so true. You're in Mass. I used to live in Massachusetts. Went to college there. Have some family there. I don't. Obviously, I haven't seen any of your roofs in person or anything like that. But if I knew someone in your area, and I'm not just saying this because we're on the podcast, but like if I knew someone in the Worcester area or Boston area that needed a new roof, I would have zero hesitation about recommending you guys. Only because I can see you're real people, and I know that you're going to treat the client well, and that's the brand. Like that's the brand that we all want to have is to be that top of mind brand in our market. So great job on that.
Thank you so much. And just to tie it back to that social media, if you don't have a marketing budget, you just have to be willing to put in the work, because if you don't have the money, then you have to put in the work. And a lot of business owners say they're going to do it, but then they fall short, because with social media, you just have to be strategic, and you have to be patient, and you have to be disciplined. You have to educate yourself on how the algorithms work on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And you can do that for free, and then you have to discipline yourself. You have to discipline yourself to be strategic, that you have to post, you have to share, you have to engage, you have to go live, you have to show yourself, even if it's for one person, even if it's for your one view. That is the basis of social media engagement. It's going to start out with one person, but if you get discouraged because it's one person, you're never going to get to 2,000 people or 3,000 or 4,000 people, because you have to be very disciplined and strategic about your messaging, and you have to be willing to put in the work. I see it a lot of times that a lot of business owners are just not willing to put in the work. They want the instant gratification. They want like the 1,000 YouTube subscribers, and unfortunately it doesn't come overnight. You have to be willing. I highly recommend that if you're a business owner and you're listening to this, that you dedicate at least 5 hours of your week to engaging with your future fans of your brand, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, making a podcast, whatever it is. Do it because that is how you're going to essentially create a brand. Otherwise, you're just a business owner, and being a business owner and an entrepreneur are two different things. An entrepreneur is always innovating for his or her business. A business owner is just running the daily operations. So I challenge you to see yourself as a business owner or an entrepreneur. And if you think you're an entrepreneur, then you got to live up to that, because that means putting in the work and seeing the vision and strategizing way before anybody else.
Amen to that. So true. So true. Most of the roofing companies that I know and that we work with are stuck in like that operator mode, and they don't get out of that, because most people are focused on sales. Like, how can I make a sale today? How can I find someone today? Where building a brand and marketing is about tomorrow. It's about the future. So yeah, of course, make those sales today. Like,
I was going to say, I'll add to that one thing. I'll say, if you are very much a business owner, then get yourself somebody that can do that other piece of the puzzle for you, because it is vital to overcoming those hurdles, right? So it's like the reason why you're probably not getting out of that 2-3 million, whatever you're stuck, is because you're very much in the operations, and that might be something where you're really good at, and you might just need to find the other person or the other company or the other brand that could could do all those other things for you and help you strategize. So you're always a step ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So Greta has an in-house web developer. That's fantastic. I'm sure it's a revenue driving position. Not everyone needs to have an in-house developer. I think that would be a rare thing. Many of the roofing companies we work with have a full-time in-house marketing person. And, if you're a small company, you might be like, oh, that's a big investment. I can't afford that. But when you really break it down, like if you're going to pay, an in-house person, depending on where you are in the country, 30 to 60 grand a year, say, like that's a revenue driving position where if they're trained the right way and they know what they're doing, they're going to drive like 10x, 20x that in revenue. And you're going to be able to build that brand for the future. So anyone watching or listening, I would, challenge you to, to what you can afford. It might not be full time. Maybe it's 20 hours a week or 10 hours a week. Even that is going to set you apart. And like Greta said, it's not going to happen overnight. I've definitely experienced that. It's the compound effect of just showing up every day, being a practitioner, getting in the game, engaging, seeing what people respond to, and just improving over time. And you're going to see that compound effect of those daily efforts.
Exactly. Amen to that too. So yes, exactly.
Cool. So we've talked about, building that brand and attracting customers and clients and whatnot. How has your brand helped you build your team of like-minded people? Looking at the videos, it seems like you guys are a family. I know some of you are actually family, but it seems like the whole team is a family. What role has your brand played in that?
It's played a big role because we've recruited a lot of people right out of college, and it's hard to recruit people out of college because there's so much corporate entities that want the same labor force. And when you have a brand, when you've created a brand, you're able to offer certain guarantees, right? You're able to offer a product that they're proud of at the kitchen table, right? They're not shy of, they're not uncertain, right? Like none of the sales team or any of the production team feel ashamed or in question about what they're saying at the kitchen table. They know it's 100% true because they validated themselves, right? They've done their own research. They don't have to take my word for it. They're smart enough to. So that's really important because when you're creating a brand, you're thinking it just legacy and growth, but it also dictates the people that come to join your team. So if you want to get to a point where you have rock stars in your team, when you want to get to a point where you have these incredible individuals that are like-minded and visionaries, well, you have to ask yourself, are you the type of company they're going to come, that they're going to spend 5 years of their life in, right? Because for them to commit to you, what are you committing to the industry and what are you committing to them? So one of the reasons the brand has played a big factor is that we're always connecting things to the bigger picture. And I challenge each roofer to do this in their own community. Find a way to connect yourself to the bigger picture. Find your way to connect yourself to roofing as a whole. Because when you do that, your brand will sort of start to lift. And the more it lifts, the more individuals you'll be able to bring that will respect that and identify with that and see your company as a career. For me, for example, when I hired our office manager from a psychology degree and watched her take a career in construction, that was a really proud moment, right? Because we could have lost her to, becoming a therapist at some office, but she's decided to stay here because she was proud of Golden Group. She saw the potential of Golden Group and she saw how Golden Group was viewed in the community. And that is the power of branding, right? If you brand yourself and you position yourself so well, people will come to you and they'll contribute to you, which is the key to everything. They won't just come to just do their job. They'll come to become another voice, another mind, another wealth of, just possibilities because it's a very much every Monday we have a meeting where everybody voices their wants and their opinions. And that's the only way we continue to move forward and strategize. And it's no longer just me running it. Now it's a group of 10, 15 people running it with me, but it was Golden Group who welcomed them in the door.
That is so well put. Everyone, please rewind that because that was like perfectly put. You have to sell your company to the people that you want to join. And especially if you're recruiting people out of college. I know I graduated college in Boston, and if you were to tell me like, okay, you're gonna go to college for 4 years and then go work for a roofing company, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, why would I do that? You got to have that brand that's going to attract those people that see a bigger future, that see a future for themselves. So that is so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've got 10 or 15 people in those monthly meetings those weekly meetings, making decisions with you. How can you give us an idea of like what Greta does on a weekly basis and how that's evolved from a few years ago?
Yeah, so a few years ago, I used to just do the daily operations, looking at the sales, looking at what the production managers reports were, what marketing reports was. And now I'm very much a strategic planner. So my day now today, I've gotten to a point where I'll come in and I'll think of like, what message can I push out there? Is there any podcasts that align with our vision? Is there any YouTube videos that we can make that would go well with what we're doing? Is there any local awards that we could work towards obtaining that would be really good to have in our portfolio? What's NRCA doing, right? Like, is there any way we can reach out to them and network with them, or the Roofers Coffee Shop? Because I'm always networking with those entities within our industry. And then I also have a bigger role now. I don't know if you know, but I am also the treasurer of the New England Roofing Contractor Association, which is an affiliate of the NRCA. And so that's my biggest involvement to date, where now I'm thinking of the industry as a whole. I'm thinking, how can we have building departments be all online rather than just some online, some not online, right? How can we make the process that we don't have to like pick up the permit card, post it, and then bring it back? Like maybe we can make, so I'm thinking of ways that I can contribute back to the industry through my position there, because I want my time at NERCA to be something that's impactful to every roofer. So my day goes a lot about just strategizing on my personal brand, strategizing on how I can obtain more awards, affiliations, and make ourselves connected to the roofing industry. And then just how I can better my role at NERCA. And I also do 3 hours a week where I work with students from the local college that I attended. I'm part of the mentorship, entrepreneurship mentor council. I know that not everybody can do that, but I'm very grateful that at this time in my life, I can sit down with faculty and students, and now I can be the real life mentor. And I'm really proud because I'm the only mentor with one other that are in construction, and the other guy is much bigger than I am. And, you know, I'd rather not say his name right now, but it's incredible to be in the table with those type of people that I've looked at my whole life, and some incredible business owners from the community. So I found ways to integrate myself, and integrating myself at the college level back in the classroom has been the most impactful, because I know that the students talk, I know they talk to their parents, I know the faculty talk, and when they see a business owner from the community volunteering 3 hours of her time to work on research with a team of students, that speaks a lot about my involvement with Golden Group. I'm not here for profits, I'm not here for sales, I'm here for a very long game, and I have a very long goal in mind, and I hope that the customers or the listeners understand that, and they feel that, and they see that when you're working with Golden Group, it's not just about the roof today, but it's about those years of service to come.
Wow, that must be so rewarding. That is so cool to hear. And I know it's not why you're doing it, but I'm sure that's going to help with recruiting as well, building that team down the road. It's kind of a byproduct of everything you're doing. Real quick, we could do a whole episode on leadership and delegation, but you're doing all these things. Your weekly kind of schedule sounds aspirational to probably everyone watching this, because most people are stuck in operational mode. Is there like one key that you would like to share with everyone on how to move from like operator to entrepreneur, and like what you did to create leaders within Golden Group?
I mean, if you want to talk just straight up business, you have to be willing to make a pay cut. I think that's like straight up business talk. I think any great entrepreneur that you've ever been inspired by has taken a pay cut at one point in their life. And I think business owners' life cycle, especially small business owners, start something like this. We have nothing, we put everything, we get something. When we get something, we become obsessed with it because we don't want to go back to nothing. But we must realize that when you take a pay cut, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be forever. It's temporary, right? Like you're distributing wealth back into your brand, and you're distributing. So I know it's tough to hire somebody for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, right, to run operations for you while you have this ability, but understand that you're playing a long game, and understand that in 2 years from now, it will be so worth it, because you will have gotten more business when you're out there networking, when you're making people feel and understand what your purpose is, and like why they should do business with you, or why they should award you big commercial projects. But you're never going to get to that stage if you're just estimating day to day, and if you're just running an install day to day. You're never. So I think the basis of it all is you got to be willing to take and reinvest in your company. And if it means you taking a pay cut, then you have to be okay with that. Because if you're not willing to reinvest in your company, don't think your clients or investors will, right? Or your team. Nobody's going to reinvest in your brand if you're not reinvesting in it. And that's something I learned very early on. Now, my second thing about leadership is like the ability to be a person that invests in yourself and self-motivates yourself. Now, whether that's through reading, hiring a coach, doing therapy, whatever that could be. I don't think you always have the answers. And I think sometimes a coach, like, I know it's a new world concept, but sometimes it's just somebody that's just hearing your thoughts and repeating them back to you with a neutral status. And you're not going to get that in your spouse. You're not going to get that in your friend group. Your friends and your spouse are always going to have an opinion. So I realized very early on that I needed mentors, and if I had to pay for somebody's time $200-300, I had to do it because it was my neutral voice hearing it back and seeing if it made sense to me. I think a lot of people say that they're going to do that, work with somebody, but how many people actually do? And I think if you try it once or twice, you're going to be surprised how much power you're going to leave that room with, and most of it's going to be your own stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of coaches and mentors to help, share that journey and get insight and maybe cut that learning curve down a little bit. My first business coach, Tim, is now actually an investor and partner in my company, Contractor Dynamics. But when I first started working with him, it was kind of the Socratic method. He would just, kind of ask questions, and I'd, spew out whatever was going on, and he'd kind of, take it and massage it, make sense of it all in a way that I had never thought about, because I'm just like, grinding in the business every day.
Absolutely.
So that makes sense. So invest in yourself, invest in your company, and seek the counsel of others who can help you along the way, even if it's just asking those hard questions or those simple questions that you're just not asking yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, just to add to that, just one thing, it's like reinvesting in your brand is the basis of it all. If you're not pumping huge amounts of cash flow right back into your business, whether it's new equipment, technology, better office, better marketing, better visuals, like, it's going to be noticed, and you're never going to be able to grow because you're not going to have people that want to grow with you. Nobody likes to be in an environment that's stale or, outdated. Think of it that way. Would you? If you wouldn't, work in your office or work with your equipment or work with your vans, why do you expect others to do it? And again, you as an entrepreneur, that's a tough call to make, but it's one that's vital if you're trying to create a brand and something that will eventually work for you and will allow you to step out of the daily operations and become the visionaire.
So key. So it all comes back to that long-term mindset, that long-term vision over that short-term gratification. Huge. Thank you for sharing. So as we kind of wrap it up here, Greta, I just want to be respectful of your time. You've got a lot of cool things going on in Golden Group and in the industry at large as well. What's next? Like, what's the next big initiative for you and the company?
I'm starting something really special. I'm starting something that has nothing to do with it has everything to do with construction, because that's my roots are, but nothing to do with Golden Group. We're starting a very big project of 2 sister companies that will be launching at the same time in the spring. I can't talk too much about it, but I will say that it has something to do with just following me and my persona and this roofing, this roofing ride that we're on, and just linking that to the bigger picture of industry and growth and leadership, and just really a lot of people that identify with my story, right? Because I was living paycheck to paycheck, and never in 100 years did I think about being here today speaking with you. But I think I'm a big believer in skill. A lot of people talk about passion. I think passion is very important, but I think sometimes in life, when you have a skill, you can fall in love with passion along the way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's awesome. I didn't know that you had anything cool like that coming up. I just happened to ask, and thanks for giving us that little teaser. So depending on when someone's watching this, that actually might be live, whatever that is, but I'll be staying tuned.
Yes.
So yeah, if you don't mind, as we wrap up, I guess there's a million things. I know you've shared a lot. We've got people watching, listening that are just starting out, or maybe who are women and trying to crack into the roofing industry and carve out their brand. What's like 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you would give someone new, or someone who's got some experience, but they're still kind of struggling, and maybe they feel like they've hit a ceiling? Like, what's going to give them that success?
Great question. It's going to be, for my biggest belief is, seeing Like I call it like stop listening to the whispers in your ear and just see where you have to go and just run for it. I think if you think of life as an entrepreneur cycle, when you're getting into the beginning, it's like you're in this house and there's these people like whispering in your ear and you're not really sure what door you should go into, and you keep turning around, you keep getting disoriented, and you never like find the exit, or you never, find where you're meant to be. And that's kind of like what happens in your brain as an entrepreneur, because everybody's telling you what you should and you shouldn't do. Everybody's telling you what they think is best. But I think if you just are able to close your ears and just have a vision and have a roadmap of where you want to go and just run for it, it's like riding out a wave, and give yourself the vision of only seeing the sun, right? Like if you're a surfer and you're riding a wave, I love to use a lot of metaphors. You just see yourself riding the wave, because if you don't, chances are you're going to get swollen by that wave and you're either going to end up in deep ocean or back to shore. And those are two things that you do not want as a business owner, because it means loss. It means not coming out successful. So do yourself a favor and ride the wave. See only positive sunshine for your end result in small strokes, and stop listening to other people to validate your success. Stop listening to other people's opinions. Chances are it's always going to be 50-50. 50% are going to agree, 50% are going to disagree. So stop listening to their input. Sure, reach out to mentors. Sure, like validate, some stuff. But essentially what you want to do is what you want to do. And you have to stick to that gut instinct, because you got it this far in life. It's gotten to you to where you are listening to this podcast. So keep going, keep striving, and keep listening to yourself. Don't let other people's opinions validate your success and purpose.
Wow. Powerful stuff. Yeah. Channel that inner Stephen Covey and start with the end in mind, have your vision. And I call it the information diet, right? There's so much noise out there and so many inputs. We have to really understand like what our vision is and be selective about what types of information we let into our world. And opinions as well. So thank you for sharing that. That's perfect. Super powerful. So thank you so much for sharing, Greta. I really enjoyed this. I hope you did too. I know you're online in various places, but like, how do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out, say hello, say thank you?
Yeah. Perfect. So Greta@goldengrouproofing.com. I always answer any email, even if it's just for mentorship and guidance, or you can always reach us through Golden Group Roofing on Instagram and Facebook. And of course, my personal handle is Greta Bajrami. You should probably look it up how to spell that.
We'll put it below.
And always connect. And I'll be more than happy to give you guidance, mentorship, anything that I can, because I want to see another Greta out there, which essentially means just a new face of construction and a new wave of what's coming.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you so much, Greta. And I look forward to possibly talking again soon.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.